My video for June the 13th, 2019 is video number 3115. The title is College Student Says, quote, "My generation is blind to the prosperity around us." Yes, I get things from friends in emails and on my media connections on both YouTube and Facebook. One of my few friends who uses my Zoho mailing address, a man named Victor, sent me this piece that was written by a college student named Alyssa Algren, who is in a Florida grad school working on her MBA. For me, it offers a perspective and points out some of the blatant lies that are being taught to the youth. I'm going to read the whole thing that closes with this, quote, "We don't have a lack of prosperity problem. We have an entitlement problem, an ungratefulness problem, and it's spreading like the plague," end quote. This is the article that I printed out, the piece, and I'm going to take time to actually read it, even though there are other things that have come to my attention in the past day or two that I'm also going to be making videos on in the future. But anyway, here's what Alyssa wrote. "I'm sitting in a small coffee shop near Nokomis, that's in Florida, trying to think of what to write about. I scroll through my news feed on my phone, looking at the latest headlines of Democratic candidates calling for policies to fix the so-called injustices of capitalism. I put my phone down and continued to look around. I see people talking freely, working on their MacBooks, ordering food they get in an instant, seeing cars go by outside, and it dawned on me. We live in the most privileged time in the most prosperous nation, and we've become completely blind to it. Vehicles, food, technology, freedom to associate with whom we choose. These things are so ingrained in our American way of life, we don't give them a second thought. We are so well off here in the United States that our poverty line begins 31 times above the global average. 31 times. Virtually no one in the United States is considered poor by global standards. Yet in a time when we can order a product off Amazon with one click and have it at our doorstep the next day, we are unappreciative, unsatisfied, and ungrateful. Our unappreciation is evident as the popularity of socialist policies among my generations continues to grow. Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently said to Newsweek, talking about the millennial generation, quote, "An entire generation, which is now becoming one of the largest electorates in America, came of age and never saw American prosperity," end quote. Never saw American prosperity? Let that sink in. When I first read that statement, I thought to myself, that was quite literally the most entitled and factually illiterate thing I've ever heard in my 26 years on this earth. Many young people agree with her, which is entirely misguided. My generation is being indoctrinated by a mainstream narrative to actually believe we have never seen prosperity. I know this firsthand. I went to college. Let's just say I didn't have the popular opinion, but I digress. Why then, with all the overwhelming evidence around us, evidence that I can see sitting in a coffee shop, do we not view this as prosperity? We have people who are trying to get into our country, people around the world destitute and truly impoverished. Yet we have a young generation convinced they've never seen prosperity, and as a result elect politicians dead set on taking steps toward abolishing capitalism. Why? The answer is this: my generation has only seen prosperity. We have no contrast. We didn't live in the Great Depression or live through two world wars, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, or see the rise and fall of socialism and communism. We don't know what it's like to live without the internet, without cars, without smartphones. We don't have a lack of prosperity problem. We have an entitlement problem, an ungratefulness problem, and it's spreading like the plague. I thought that was an interesting letter written, or piece, article, whatever you want to call it, written by a college student, way less than what I am, with less experience, but yet perceives the way things are perceived in her world, among her generation, and of course the generation above her and below her as well. This is how our youth are being misguided. Yet, as I was reading that again, I'm thinking, but the whole world has been misguided. We've been lied to by our leaders for eons. Nothing of what we are told is the truth, and which triggers, of course, some of the things that I've seen since I first received that article a few days back. I've been looking at some other things that make me scratch my head about all of the glaring contradictions of living in a world that is not what it appears to be. We are deluded about many things, and I'm not going to go into those details in this video. That'll be a subject for another video. However, we do need to wake up to the fact that our leaders lie. We do need to realize that almost everything we've been told, and perhaps especially the things we've been told that are going to happen that's going to level the playing field, like the RV, for example, these things are not something that the elite establishment wants to happen. They do not want prosperity for the whole world. And yes, it is important for those that are relatively prosperous compared to the rest of the world to recognize that fact, that they are better off than people living in third world countries, for example. And I'm glad this college student was able to perceive that. But by the same token, I've been lied to. I have had my home stolen. I have had things that were gifted to me taken away because international bankers didn't like it. And they didn't want me to be blessed by my spiritual mom, who referred to me as the son she never had. She never had any children at all. Of course, speaking of Reverend Dr. Mary Horgan. But in any case, folks, there are so many blatant lies and so many problems that remain on this planet that I'd like to see addressed by a loving God. And that will be a topic for yet another video, because some of the things that I've been taught my whole life and believed to be true throughout virtually my entire life, I'm recognizing are deceptions at best. They're not, there's partial truth mixed with a lot of lies, because we live in a holographic universe where everything is a hologram. That's one of the things that I'm going to talk about in another video. But anyway, I do appreciate those of you that take time to listen. And I'd like to hear what other people say in regard to what this college student perceives and what she wrote about in this piece that I just read to you. Again, I thank you folks for listening, and namaste.